Hey guys, you know the iPads have pretty much been the king of the tablet world till now, but this time Samsung has other ideas. They have recently brought in their flagship tablet series called the Galaxy Tab S to compete head-on with the iPads. We here at Nothing Wired will give you the most in-depth comparison between the iPad Air and the Galaxy Tab S 10.5 inch to help you decide which of these beauties deserve your time and money. Let's roll, shall we? Apple has sent the iPad 4 to diet, and what we get is an incredibly thin and light with the same size called iPad Air. However, the Galaxy Tab 10.5 inch is even thinner. So the Tab S 10.5 is 6.6 mm compared to the iPad Air's 7.5 mm. It's that thin. Now when you hold both these devices together, it's actually visibly thin, the Tab S. However, you would feel it even thinner when you hold it, mainly because of the larger size of the Galaxy Tab S. This guy is about 12% bigger than the iPad Air. When you hold both of these devices in the landscape mode, the iPad Tab S is actually 4% taller and roughly 3% wider than the iPad Air. Both of them has separate aspect ratios. The iPad Air has a 4:3 aspect ratio. The Galaxy Tab S 10.5 has a 16:10 aspect ratio. However, the construction quality tells a different story. The iPad Air has an aluminum material. However, the Galaxy Tab S 10.5 is made of plastic, very high quality polycarbonate. So obviously the iPad Air is more durable here than the Tab S 10.5, but for the first time probably we are not complaining about Samsung's plastic construction, because the Tab S, despite of being plastic, does not feel loose or does not feel rickety or breakable at all. It feels very compact, and the whole housing is very tightly neat. Apart from that, when you look at the screen, you will see that the iPad Air's glossy screen attracts a lot of fingerprints and smudges compared to the Tab S Super AMOLED screen, which hardly attracts any fingerprints at all. But again, to shift the balance, despite of being a metal tablet, the iPad Air weighs only about 469 grams as compared to the Galaxy Tab S's weight of 467 grams for the LTE version and 465 grams for the Wi-Fi only version. Despite of being a plastic device, the Tab S is only slightly lighter than the iPad Air. Of course, we'll have to take into account the extra real estate that the Tab S gives us. A bigger tablet, so you expect the bigger tablet to weigh more. Ultimately how it feels in your hands, and the statistics says the Tab S 10.5 is lighter than the iPad Air. The 10.5 inch display of the Galaxy Tab S 10.5 has an incredible resolution of 2560 by 1600 pixels, whereas the 9.7 inch iPad Air has a Retina display 2048 by 1536 pixels. So you can see that Tab S's resolution is much more, but it also has a bigger area, 10.5 inch as against the 9.7 inch, and that actually reduces the difference in color density. So the Tab S 10.5 has 288 ppi of color density as opposed to the iPad Air slightly less, 264 ppi. The difference is less mainly because of the iPad Air's smaller screen. They both showed great result when we tested how they show images, videos and text on the web. However, there are small differences here and there, but very small and insignificant, mind you. For example, when we tested viewing images and videos, for example, so that means multimedia, there both of them shows great natural saturation and hue and great color reproduction overall. However, the Galaxy Tab S shows just a bit more natural color, particularly in the red and the bluish hue. There are 3 screen modes on the Galaxy Tab S, and only the basic mode practically gives you the truest saturation and hue. The movie and the image mode kind of slightly oversaturate the colors. That's great for movie viewing and image viewing, but then it might just give you a false sense of having your images and videos that much sharper. The iPad does not do that. But then we always have more option on the Galaxy Tab S, and when we go to the basic mode, then it's almost both the tablets are at par. I like to watch movie slightly oversaturated, so I definitely like the movie mode. However, I would surely like to watch the images in the basic mode. We tested the text reproduction or the text rendition in two cases: the web pages and then the magazines on one of our apps. So the web texts are rendered by brilliantly by both the devices. There are absolutely nothing to separate them. There is a slight difference in how the magazines fit in there, mainly because of the difference in the aspect ratio. The iPad fits the magazine slightly wider than the Galaxy Tab S. So the texts are that very insignificantly larger than that on the Galaxy Tab S. However, you definitely won't see that difference unless you look very closely. They both are perfectly comfortable. You do not need to zoom in on the magazines at all. And when you're actually reading text which has a colored background, we saw that the Galaxy Tab S kind of slightly shows the whole page better than that of the iPad, mainly because the contrast is so good on the Galaxy Tab S. But in general, both of them are at par when you're reading a magazine or reading text on the web pages. The user interfaces on both the tablets are brilliant and cutting edge, up to the mark. The iPad runs iOS 7.1 and it will receive iOS 8.0 shortly. The Galaxy Tab S has Android 4.4.2 and it's also gonna receive the subsequent Android releases up to a significant level. The Galaxy Tab S has Samsung's own TouchWiz magazine UX on top, and because the magazine UX is very heavy on RAM, at times, if you calculate the probability, then we found that the Galaxy Tab S lags in slightly more occasions than the iPad does, mainly because iPad makes both the hardware and software, so they have enough time to test the software and hardware integration, so they are that much more closely knit. They are that much more cohesive to each other. On the other hand, Android is designed for in general tablets and not particularly Galaxy Tab S in mind. So because Google and Samsung are different, so there always gonna be that gap in that cohesiveness of the software as well as on the hardware. Plus the TouchWiz slightly makes it slow, but if you use another launcher, they are almost at par. As far as gameplay is concerned, nothing separates these two tablets. They both are brilliant and they both do not break sweat whatever games you throw in onto them. We tested the lighter games like Temple Run or your Angry Birds or Fruit Ninja, and both of the tablets played them absolutely like butter. We also tested some heavier games like FIFA 14, for example, and Asphalt 8, and then some shooting games as well, and both of the tablets did not break up sweat. So as far as gameplay is concerned, it's an absolute tie. The Galaxy Tab S comes with a 7900 mAh battery, whereas the iPad Air comes with an 8800 mAh battery. The iPad Air has 1000 mAh more in the battery life, but then because of the Super AMOLED screen, the Galaxy Tab S consumes less battery than a 10.5 inch IPS screen would have. So the difference are pretty low, and the main difference are in two cases: when you're reading text on the web pages where you have largely white background, and then when you're watching a movie where you have mainly colored or dark background. Here the differences exist. Now when you're reading text on a white background, let's say a ebook or or a magazine or even on a web page, the iPad gives a better battery life, mainly because of the contrast actually. And it actually gave us slightly about 9.5 to 10 hours, whereas the Galaxy Tab S gave us about 8 hours of battery life. But it's a totally different story when you watch a movie, mainly because of the very high standard, very high contrast ratio in the Galaxy Tab S, and because it makes the black dark so dark that the movies hardly consume a battery at all. And the Galaxy Tab us gave us about 13 and a half hours, and even more than 13 and a half hours of movie viewing. However, the iPad still gives us about 11 to 11 and a half hours of movie viewing. So as far as multimedia viewing is concerned, your Galaxy Tab S gives us much more battery life than the iPad, but in case of text with white background, the iPad Air wins. Now we're going to talk about some of the peripheral features of both the tablets. The first thing is the storage. Now here is a big difference, and it's one of my personal favorites. The iPad Air comes with 16GB, 32GB, 64 and 128GB, but you cannot extend the storage. So if you want to buy the 32GB version, you have to get the 32GB iPad Air, and that again costs slightly more than the 16GB version. And also the 128GB version costs significantly more than the 16GB version. But the Galaxy Tab S supports micro SD card slots, so you can simply go ahead and buy the 16GB version, and you can place a micro SD card there. It supports micro SD card storage up to 128GB. So if you put a 128GB micro SD card, 128 plus 16, and you're getting more storage than the highest iPad Air storage capacity, and that too at a much less cost. The Galaxy Tab S also comes with some other hardware and software goodies. The hardware goodies, like it has an IR blaster which the iPad Air does not. It has dual speakers situated on both the side of the lateral sides, and it's great for surround sound. And iPad Air does not have that. Plus, there are also lots of software goodies. For example, you now have a specific Galaxy App Store. Plus, you also have lots of Galaxy gifts, like you have a 50GB of Dropbox space free for 2 years. You have 50GB of box space free. You have lots of subscription. You have 1 year subscription of Bloomberg, and about 6 month or 6 month subscription of New York Times. Some subscription of WSJ, and some other subscription and all. Great, mainly probably for a limited period as a promotional offer. And you also get a very good cover for the Galaxy Tab S. When you pre-book it, you'll get it for free, but that's also kind of a better cover than any iPad covers, I would say, mainly because of the Galaxy Tab S covers design matches the Galaxy Tab S's design and the back, and so it's kind of has that similar look. Plus, again, the Galaxy Tab S has 2 buttons that fits very securely to the cover, which does not make the cover loose when you're particularly playing games and all, and you're sliding your palms up and down. So those are some of the added advantages of the Galaxy Tab S. I'm afraid Apple probably does not believe in giving out many goodies. So that's, guys, those are our comparison between the iPad Air and the Galaxy Tab S 10.5. The Galaxy Tab S comes with lots of goodies, and it gives you much more possibilities and ways of using a tablet than the iPad Air gives you. However, the iPad Air wins slightly over the performance, the user interface lag and all, because it's the software and the hardware is more closely knit. Plus also the build quality, because it has an aluminum build as opposed to a plastic build of the Galaxy Tab S 10.5. For me personally, I would say I would prefer the Galaxy Tab S 10.5 because I can live with the build quality. I can also use a lighter ROM or a lighter launcher to do away with the lag that comes with the very heavy TouchWiz magazine UX. But I'm looking at the almost endless possibilities. First thing is the expandable storage. That's one of the big thing that iPad does not give me. Plus I also have the IR blaster. I also have the call capability on the Galaxy tablets, which the iPad Air does not give me. I have the dual speakers, and I have those Galaxy gifts, all those subscriptions and everything. And plus it's always easier to hack anything on Android than it is on Apple. And being a tech savvy guy like me, I always want my platform to be customized according to me, and not according to the manufacturer basically. So it's up to you, but at last we finally just might have got an iPad killer for many people.